Well, hello and welcome back to Red Fox Classics, and this time another car I've not seen in a while, the 1969 Mark III Triumph Spitfire. Now, in the middle of last year, when we'd finished the engine rebuild on the Herald 1360, we did a comparative compression test on this car and the Herald, because I built the Herald's engine to be up to the same specification as a Mark III Spitfire, and I was just interested to know how they compared with one that's brand new and another that is very unknown. And the results of that were that the compression was quite poor. Well, quite poor in this car, just to be clear. And we actually had quite a big differential between, I think it was between 1 and 4 and 2 and 3, but it was bordering on over 10%. Doing a check with oil in the bores was completely inconclusive, so it's probably both rings and valves that are gone, and it leaks oil like nobody's business. Yeah, I know, old cars, old British cars, they like to leak oil, but you know, you kind of need some of it to stay in the engine, and it's not quite happening here. So now that the Herald's back and the Herald is running, it's time for this to come apart, which is going to delay the GT6 sat to my left a little bit, but I would prefer to have this in a running condition sooner rather than later, because it's a car that should be driven. Shouldn't take too long to do the engine. So let's get straight on with it. Get onto the bonnet and start taking stuff to bits. So to start with, I've got the battery off and I'm just draining out as much of the fuel as I can. These early Spitfires have the fuel tank feed like right on the bottom of the tank, so it will just gravity drain out. Most of it will. And I may as well stick it in another car rather than let it sit in the tank and potentially go stale, because hopefully this isn't going to be out for too long, but you never know. Now, while that's happening, this engine is not the car's original engine. It's an FD 27,000-ish, whereas the car itself is FD 47,000. And the engine numbers and commission numbers don't line up perfectly, but they're usually within, you know, a small range. Yeah, my Heralds are something like 1,000 apart. But I know this is not the original engine anyway, because I was told it was not by the person I bought it from. According to him, it must have been changed somewhere around 97, 98 by the previous owner, and it sounds like the original engine died quite spectacularly. But given the state of quite a lot of the other stuff on this car, I'm not anticipating this was taken care of very well when it was put in. However, it has survived this long, and it doesn't run badly. You know, when it's running, it seems fine, but it's obviously it's on its last legs. But anyway, I'll see if there's any bits I can do on the other side of the engine while that's happening down here. I don't really want to kick over a can of fuel if I can possibly avoid it. Well, there we've got the scene of devastation. I've not recorded much of it, it's just been undoing bolts and not particularly thrilling. Have, however, got a little bit of a problem. I think that might need to be attached. So I am pretty sure I've got the Mark IV one kicking around somewhere. But my question is, will the Smith's pollution valve fit? Anyway, problem for later. I think all I have to do now is get the bonnet off, and then it'll be a case of detaching the engine from the gearbox and from the mountings and yoinking it out. I'm sure I've forgotten something. I'm pretty sure I've got everything, but it just seems so little. I think partly because it's just the radiator is the big thing really, and then a couple of pipes and wires connecting it to the rest of the car. Anyway, as I said, bonnet off time. I have managed to get the bonnet detached with the bumper still. And in common with a lot of the stuff on this car that I haven't touched, we have some random metric hardware, which is the wrong size. I mean, it's not even close to the right size. Anyway, just need to wait for an assist to take that off, and then pull the engine out. Well, the bonnet's off. And it does look kind of strange. It does look kind of strange to have the whole front of the car missing. Obviously I've been doing it on the GT6 quite a bit, but I don't know, this just looks different. Anyway, I'm not taking the engine out tonight because I'd have to roll the rear of the car out the garage to be able to get enough clearance at the front here, and it's dark and cold, I just don't want to do it. But I realise what I can do is try and break this crank pulley nut free while I'm able to use the gearbox and the handbrake to immobilise the engine. I could stick I've got a, what's it called? A ring gear lock I built when putting the Herald's engine together, but, you know, before bolting something else on, I'll just see if it'll move. And so for the early engines, we've got the 1 7/16 AF pulley, and that. It's turning far too easily. Shows how good the handbrake is, doesn't it? Shows how good the compression is too. So that's my lock. Just a chunk of steel with another chunk of steel welded onto it. That engages in the ring gear. This bolts to where the starter motor goes. And I even labelled it. Well, they move quite easily then. They normally put a bit more fight than that, so I wonder if that was really done up properly. Anyway, we'll see what the engine's like and we'll get it to bits. That's going to happen a bit more quickly for you than it will for me. So I'll see you tomorrow. Well, there we go, the engine is out, and from what I know, it's the first time since the late 90s, so what's that, 25? Well, yeah, 25 plus years. Got some clean up to do in the engine bay, but right now, I'm going to whip the clutch off, flywheel and back plate, so we can get on the stand, and then go from there. Right, so that's out. I started to need space, so the tripod had to go. I'm gonna have to clean this up. I mean, I can't put it back. I don't really fancy doing it, but you know, just get rid of some of the oil, touch up the paint, that sort of thing. I am not going like full anything on this engine bay. This car is a good driver. I don't feel the need to. It's going to look a mess again anyway, basically, as soon as I put the engine back in. But we'll do it as nice as we can in the time frame, especially given there's something else that needs work. But this is out. If you're watching maybe a year and a half ago, we did do this rear seal from inside the car. Looks like it's not leaking from there. It's leaking from pretty much everywhere else though, as well, as really was expected. I think this engine has been apart, but I don't think, maybe it's not been rebuilt. As you can see here, these are normally little hex head plugs that someone's done copper washers on bolts, which is actually, it's quite nice. That I think I'm probably going to keep that. It's a good idea. I am betting we are going to find red silicone around the place, but we will see about that once the sump comes off, because the I can't get it right now. Front sealing block, I'm thinking, is going to be completely knackered down there. But anyway, no point in doing any more speculating. I'll just have to take it apart and see what we find. But again, I've got other stuff to do today, so it'll be tomorrow, probably tomorrow for me, and right back now for you. You see what I mean about the oil leaks? It's quite a considerable amount overnight, which I should have thought of, but never mind. I think it's mostly that. That sealing block does not look to be sealing very well. Anyway, I'm going to get some of this sorted out, and then we're going to take that apart. Right, first of all, we can get rid of some of the easy stuff. Ancillaries. Or take the oil out, might be a better idea. A little bit of sludge on the magnet there. Some more filing bits. It's an extra good job we're taking it apart. Though this only went on, this having a magnetic drain plug is only since its last oil change, so I mean there could well have been stuff hanging around, wasn't getting drained out. Now while that's finishing draining, I can start yanking off things like the alternator. This is definitely getting a longer belt when it goes back on, because this is about the shortest you can use, and it makes it kind of awkward. It did look like we were getting a leak around the stud there, but the gasket looks fine, and the stud doesn't look like it's horribly threaded or anything. So this funny looking fixing is actually the correct nut for the attaching the fuel pump to the lock on the side closest to the bulkhead, because it's quite easy to take off with the engine on stand. But if you're trying to fit it back on with the engine in the car, it's really, really difficult. So that's what it's supposed to look like. Thermostat's made in West Germany. It does look like we've been running quite rich, but also it's not really been anywhere in a while. So that's probably just because it's been run up and choke in and out of the garage. Alright, now we're on to stuff that can be a bit more awkward. Fortunately, we already split this nut when the engine was in the car, so that will come out. Hopefully this will come off. It's got some numbers on it, but I guess that might just be the part number. Now we've got these, there's like 4 cheese-headed screws here, which can be sometimes don't like to move. Can this do anything? I might be able to use the tip. The back screwdriver didn't work, but it gave us the tools. So then we got an assortment of, we got one stud and the rest are bolts, but some of them are 3 bolts into the crankcase. And that bottom one goes into our sealing block, and it came out far too easily, so I will not be surprised if that's dead. Another cheesehead screw down there, which I don't think is supposed to be one. And some of these are definitely supposed to have copper washers. I haven't found any copper washers yet. Okay, so it doesn't actually look too terrible in there. So there's definitely wear on the tensioner, and the chain actually is quite slack, but the gears don't look in awful condition. I definitely can see some little signs of it wearing into the chain wearing into the gear, but it's not terrible. But someone has definitely been here, because look at these lock tabs. There's not much left of them, and I would say it might have been retimed, because we've got a dot there and a dot there. That one looks like an original one because you can just see the faint line through it, which would meet up with that punch mark there. But regardless, we're going to be timing it probably from first principles. So let's keep going, get those bits off, I'll get the rockers off, and then we can look at the lifted cam and check that that is alright or not. Well, nobody wanted these to come out. It does definitely have some wear, so don't know what we're going to do about it. Do have a shim here, but I've not got the woodruff key out yet, so that will be staying there for the moment. I'll give it a tight of these. No, could move that one. So there's the rockers, and actually some of them look like they might be reusable, but it depends on what the boards are like. But that looks fine. That probably isn't. That one might be. That one might be. That one probably not. That one's got. And you can feel. Well, I'm pretty sure this rocker shaft's been replaced. Anyway, but they don't feel like they're catching on the shaft, which is what usually happens. So the shaft wears and the board and the rocker boards wear, and they won't slide freely because they are pushed up against the ridge that they've made. So maybe we don't need a shaft. That would be nice, but we'll get them properly later, because I want to see what the cam lift is like. So what we're doing here is looking at the cam lobe. So cam's like a teardrop shape, So we want to find the bottom where it's not moving at all. And then we can set 0. So we're at 0, 0 that. Turn our cam, going up. 1, 2, 3, 4, right to the top. Currently not falling again, okay. Right, so that's right at the bottom. Okay, try that again. So up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5, 8, 8. So the Spitfire cam should have a lift of 0.215 inches, 215 thou, which is 5461 millimeters, which is really what we're trying to measure in. Right, checked again. Spitfire Mk3 cam is supposed to be 0.240 inches, which is 6.096 millimeters. So what were we getting there? 563, which suggests we're quite warm. Let's write this down. I'll get the rest measured, and then we will have a look at the result. Well, there's my measurements, and I don't think it matters actually exactly what it should be, because we've got at least 2 that differ quite considerably. So 1 and 4 are way away from the others. And if I'm right, I'm eventually right, and this should be something like 6.1, 6.096 mil, then probably new cam time. I guess we will see what it looks like when it's out, and put a micrometer on it just to confirm, because obviously measuring this, there's definitely some potential inconsistencies, but I've just repeated a couple of measurements and I've got the same, having moved the dial gauge around. So I'll get the push rods out, and then we can probably take the head off. What do you think our chances are of this head coming off without a terrible fight? I thought this stud in the corner this one here might prove problematic, but it does actually feel like it might be free. Anyway, let's turn this upside down and see if gravity will help us. Probably will spill oil everywhere. Yeah, like that. Gravity definitely helped to spill oil everywhere. Let's see how this goes. It moved. Oh well, that was dead easy. Like I said, my mountain slipped a bit while I was turning it, which is not good. But fortunately, nothing disastrous happened really. Now, the interesting thing here, which I was not expecting, is that this is 30 overboard. I can't see it on camera, but I can just about make out a plus 030 markings on pistons. Now, I can't. This is obviously not diagnostic, but I can't feel any ridge, which is kind of hopeful that we might get away with not having to bore it, which would be nice, but we will see. More mess. Yeah, but that's probably enough for me for tonight. Can't see anything that says we had any gasket problems, but I wasn't expecting that. Head looks about what I expected. Visually, it looks like a couple of the valve seats, in particularly that one. Looks like that's sunk into the head somewhat. But we best give it a proper inspection and go from there, rather than speculate about what we may or may not be able to see. Well, this might be a nice discovery. I've just nipped out at lunchtime to take the head studs off, and I noticed I can see cross-hatching on these bores. So it can't be in that, well, we want to measure them, of course, but I mean, it would suggest they are not in that terrible a condition, which would be quite exciting. Just wonder what which was what I really worn for. So this was our really worn cam lobe. The follow-up doesn't look too bad. No on that one. Well, tappets look decent from a quick check. So the cam's tired, definitely the head appears tired, and there definitely some major leaks. Yeah, not terrible. I'm so glad I've taken it apart because the cam does appear to be worn, which I'd wanted to deal with. I wouldn't have wanted to just take the head off, I don't think, because it's also could do with sorting out some of these leaks, and at that point it was still the right thing to take it out. Alright, so I'm going to get the tappets out. I should be able to get the cam carefully. Very carefully. Okay, so it is our Triumph cam, standpipe markings. I can't see anything that says to me massive signs of wear, but I suppose it was only slight what we were measuring. Let's just have a quick look. Now, this is not super accurate, but should at least give us an idea. 27.56 mid base. 27.4 something here. Yeah, 27.5. 3.41. It's 3.51. Yeah, so a quick look with the caliper, they do look like they are different heights, because all of our cam lobes should be the same height. It doesn't really matter what they are versus the measurements we took with dial gauge. You know, if these are consistently the same and I measure them, then the dial gauge measurements are incorrect. So that is 1.3 1.313, maybe 1.3140 inches. Still not used to trying to read an imperial micrometer. And that's 1.39 or 3095. Yeah, 1.3072. Yeah, so my cam lobes are not a consistent size. Indeed, that one's worn like at an angle. So this edge is a little higher than this edge. Yeah, same with that one. Okay, well, that does confirm we need a new cam. Which is not terrible really, because it gives the opportunity to put something perhaps a bit more interesting in. Not going too mad, but a little bit mild road might be, it's worth thinking about. Not an expected large amount of gunge. I can tell why it was leaking from here. I don't know if this will come up on camera, but this ceiling block needs to be fitted so it will be flush against this end plate. And I can see space between the gasket and this ceiling block, so it's obviously shoved that way a bit. So that is why that's so disgusting. Now, while we're here, check the end flight of the crankshaft, and then I'm not going to take any more of this apart till sort out some of this and have actual space. Okay, so which way are we? If we leave, oops, don't move the thing. Leave our crankshaft all the way back, zero the dial gauge. All the other way, we get 1.23 millimeters. That is 9 thou. So we're looking for 4 to 8 here, so that's not, you know, if we just need to change thrust washers there, that's fine. Cool. Right, let's leave the block for the time being. Pop the valves out the head. I think that might be, I might wrap it up there for the moment. So, with the right way around, that's backwards, this is 8. So on the face of it, that doesn't look awful. Okay, I can't remember off my head, top of my head, the proper test for this, but I can feel play between the valve and the guide there. There's an awful lot of carbon build up on the exhaust there. I wonder if it's just that. And not that I'm regretting taking this apart, because we've seen the cam is already out of spec, and the end float on the crank is out of spec. Now, this is very heavily carbonised. I wonder if that is our big problem, or was our big problem, because when this car came to me it was running very rich, and it was just because the carbs were, like the jets were completely worn out. It's got a stamp part number on. I know the earliest, oh, sorry, I know the latest this can have been rebuilt about 1997. And I suspect it was much earlier than that. Yeah, all have some wobble to them. I suppose the exhaust actually are sitting quite deep in the head. They just don't look very heavily damaged. Oh, I can feel a ridge actually on that valve. Just right at the top of where the valve guide will go. Okay, so you have to check the valve guide wear with a new valve. I think I have, yeah, got some random, I think Spitfire Mk3 valves. I think might have a different stem diameter because it's very loose. Because you're looking for raising it out the seat 1/8 of an inch and then rocking it side to side, looking for less than ½ mil of play. Yeah, they're definitely wrong. Seems regardless, given what they cost, probably would be false economy to not put new valve guides in, because there's definitely wear. Let's have a look at some others. There's definitely wear on that number 1 valve. Actually, we know that bit's unworn, don't we? So it's not exactly the test as prescribed, but yeah. Put the unworn end in the valve guide. It has considerable play, even if we're not getting like the full measurement or the factory specified thing. No. Yeah, number 4 exhaust as well. I can feel a little ridge, just about 5. Yeah, new stuff. Alright, so with that, I've got an awful lot cleaning up to do. I also want to get the chassis cleaned up and dealt with, probably a bit of paint on there, because I don't want this bonnet stood up behind me any longer than I need it, because I'm going to walk into it or drag a screwdriver across it or something like that, which is not ideal. We've also got the rest of the block to take apart, because obviously we want to get that checked over and sent for machining if needed. Hopefully not, but I'm going to, well, the head's going down, so I want to take the block regardless, then double check my measurements and hopefully give it a clean in their super cleaning tank things. But I'm also stopping this here because that hopefully will give me an opportunity to get this actually put together and edited and published on Sunday. So thanks everyone for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button, because it does help me out. I am getting inching ever closer to the point where YouTube will let me have advertising revenue from the videos. So every subscriber counts at the moment very much. If you want to support the channel in another way, we do have some stickers available. There will be a shop link on this video and in the channel header. So if you want to go there, that's also very much appreciated. But regardless, thanks everyone who is subscribed. Thanks everyone who already watches or just watched or whatever. And I will see you next time.